I was talking to an artist friend of mine about how African Americans seem to make every effort to not support African American creative ventures such as books, independent films, art shows, or comic books created by African Americans. However, if a white person creates any sort of media featuring an African American character, these same black people will make every effort to run to support that media and saying that, oh, there's a black person in this media, we need to support it. Meanwhile, the creators of media who are African American, who create media featuring African Americans, oftentimes we are placed in the ignore zone and completely forgotten and completely obscured by our own people. And it's really frustrating for creators like my friend and myself, is because we really are making every effort to produce some of the most balanced and positive images of African Americans out here, yet we get next to no support from our own people. And this is something I have run into quite a bit ever since I started the SJS Direct publishing imprint in 2009. I can tell you horror stories about pretty much being ignored at the 2009 Harlem Book Fair and the 2010 Harlem Book Fair, and only selling one single copy of the original ISIS at both book fairs. And this is in spite of spending at least about $1,100 to go to both book fairs, lugging a whole bunch of books to a table, and sitting out in the summer heat, literally getting ignored by most of the people there. Meanwhile, these same people were making every effort to buy street lit and erotica at that book fair. And that was, it could have been a discouraging thing for me going to that book fair and seeing that happen, but I still managed to persevere. And this is something that a lot of black creators, have to do. We have to continue to persevere in spite of the obstacles placed in front of us. And this is something we run into all the time. And I can tell you other horror stories about, being ignored by African Americans, and other stories about, just totally discouraging things that happen to you. Because what I found during my journeys as a creator is that the people who complain the loudest are often the people who you cannot find when it's time to spend some money, because these people will sit there and say, we want more positive black images. We want more balanced black images. We want more humanized black images. We want multidimensional black images. And then when a black creator like myself, goes out of their way to create those types of images, create those types of stories, create those types of films, we get ignored. It's like people literally disappear off the face of the earth. They cannot be found. I mean, I can tell you this year, when I launched the SJS Direct Cover Kickstarter, no one was found. People just disappeared. It just happened to me. It's like a magic trick. I mean, I launched that Kickstarter video letting people know that Kickstarter had started, and people disappeared. It was one of the least watched videos out there. Whenever I talk about launching a book video, that video gets double digits. Meanwhile, a video where I'm, roasting and toasting the Afro American Negro, that video can go to get 500, 600 hits. Or a video where I do something about single mothers, that video can get over 1,000 hits. But a video talking about a black book featuring positive images, that it's like a ghost town. And this is something that African American creators have to deal with all the time. And another thing we have to deal with is an enemy that we have to deal with. And one of the greatest enemies I have run into during my time, publishing books, are these pro-black, back to Africa, red, black, and green Negroes. These pro-black guys, say that they support group economics. They want more positive and balanced images. They want, more positive media. Yet, when creators like myself come to the table with media, they're the first ones who want to bicker and argue with you and tell you something is wrong. Now, I have run into these guys, quite a bit during my, travels on the World Wide Web promoting different books. And these guys seem to get butthurt at every turn wherever they see an media image that doesn't fit their narrative. And they'll make every effort to try to pick it apart. Now, my first encounter with these guys was about, I think, 2014 or 2013, when I did a blog saying that comic books don't grow up with you. And one of these pro-blacks decided to take my blog and link to his webpage and say that, um, I was being, saying that, I got to remember what he said, but he was saying that, it was wrong for me to say that comic books shouldn't grow up with you because drawing my own covers for the ISIS series. Not understanding that the ISIS series was a series that was designed for tweens, teens, and young adults. Not understanding that the stories were written for children. And my argument was that a comic book is media designed for small children. That was the point, because I see all these 35, 40-year-old men expecting a comic book to be, deeper and more complex. And he complained about the covers, being drawn a certain way. And I explained to people that I didn't have the money to do the covers. And after that, I decided to launch a Kickstarter for the ISIS Wrath of the Cyber Goddess cover, and that Kickstarter failed. And when that failed, I went out to eBay and I sold some of my toy collection to pay for the cover. And I got artist Bill Walker from the Hero Business Strip to design this cover. And who was the first one to give me criticism? It was your pro-blacks. They were the ones who were saying that the characters on the cover were too light-skinned. And that really, was a real, could have made me discouraged, but, I still managed to persevere. I look at, what I wanted to do, and I said, I really want to present, good quality product, because I really believed in the story for ISIS Wrath of the Cyber Goddess. It's one of the best stories I believe I have written, and I still, persevered in spite of that obstacle. And it was really frustrating to me to run into that. And I ran into it even from my own family, talking about, oh, the images are too light skinned. And then what really was is that, a lot of people, they don't like the idea of seeing images that don't fit, the narrative of this white liberal. See, the white liberal gives you these images of street guys, hood rats, baby mamas, or these strong independent black women, and seeing an image like these of ISIS and the cyber goddess, does not fit into that narrative. And a lot of people, they will launch into a straw man argument talking about light skin and dark skin because they can't relate to the material you're representing. And this is something a lot of black creators like myself and my artist friend run into all the time. Whenever you present material that does not fit into the narratives of the white liberal and mainstream media, a lot of times African Americans have a hard time processing those images and processing those ideas because they're so used to stereotypes and other, dysfunctional images that when you present a different type of image, they become uncomfortable around it. When I presented this cover to my family in 2014, and when I presented it to some people in media, they got upset because they weren't used to these type of images. They weren't used to seeing this type of image of a black woman. They weren't used to it. They weren't comfortable with it. And this is something that a lot of creators have to understand that you're going to run into quite a bit, because I've run into it, a lot, especially from people like your pro-blacks, and even regular black people. They'll come in, with their views of what a character like ISIS should be. They'll be come in like a couple of days ago. I ran into a guy when this cover, popped up on the link I put up for the blog, talking about where are the braids and the afros as related to ISIS, not understanding that, this is fantasy, and in fantasy, things can be whatever the creator wants it to be. And a lot of people, they want everything to be a certain way. They think that, natural hair means black, when it doesn't really mean that somebody is black. Again, black is who you are on the inside, not what you express on the outside. Again, like I said in that video, the previous video, a lot of people with natural hair and wear dashikis, a lot of women who go like that, they're out here dating white guys and Asian guys, but you can't tell people that this woman is a down sister. And that's what you run into quite a bit when you're a black creator. You run into a lot of resistance, but you cannot let that resistance from people discourage you, because what you're trying to do, the message you're trying to present, is going to help those who you can reach. And you have to focus on those people out there who want to read your material, who want to support your material, and who are open to trying new and different things, because we black creators understand how limited black media is, and how limited the stories are, because when I look at black media, it's very extremely a narrow perspective. I look at all the films that mainstream media produces, and all we get are the same type of stories. We get your biopic about your legendary black person from history. We get your hood movie. We get your single educated professional woman who can't find a man movie, or we get some comedy. And a lot of people really don't want to see, African Americans in other genres like fantasy or science fiction. And I look at, the recent Star Wars as an example of that. Sure, they put Finn in the movie, but what was Finn? Finn was the janitor. He was the garbage man. But there were more black people running to go watch Star Wars Episode 7 because Finn was in it, and instead of going out and supporting a positive black film, they wouldn't think of going to see a movie like Dope because that featured a positive image, because it wasn't promoted by mainstream media, but they ran to go see Star Wars because they saw that little media clip of Finn holding a lightsaber and thinking that this guy was actually going to do something. And even I was conned by that. But now that I see what they did to him, I will never watch another Star Wars movie again, because to say that you're going to take this black man and make him the janitor and then have him running around all scared, that's a slap in the face to black people. That's a bigger slap in the face than Jar Jar Binks. And the sad part is that more African Americans will go and run and support that media than support media created by other black people, that features black people in a positive light, like the movie Dope. I mean, the movie Dope was one of the best films of the year, and it was created by a black filmmaker. The creator, he also created The Wood and a couple of other positive black films. But black people won't go out and support those films. They won't go out and support those kind of stories. And I believe the main reason is because it doesn't fit the narrative of the white liberal. And they feel in some ways they won't get, brownie points or approval from white people. So they won't go out and support, positive images of black people in media. But most black creators, we cannot let these people discourage us. We have to stay, on point and focused on our mission and dedicated to um, putting our own media out there, because there are people out there who will support our media. There are people out there who want to see positive and balanced images in our community. There are people who want to see different images of black people in our community. And there are people out there who want their stories told. I mean, this is why I go out of my way to tell, not only to write African American fantasy stories like ISIS series books like ISIS Wrath of the Cyber Goddess, ISIS Night of Vampires, and Geek Steam Undercover, but I also make an effort to write about those stories most people don't talk about, like African American sororities, like I did in the Thetas, or writing about the African American goth subculture, like I did with Spinsterella and the upcoming Spinsterella prequel, because I really believe that we need to hear from more stories, and different stories from different perspectives. Um, the more stories we get out there, the more people will know about them, and the more people are willing to try them. We really need to get those stories out there, because the big problem that I see with black media is that, a lot of black people don't know what's out there. They don't know that there are different stories out there and different views. They're just so plugged into the mainstream media that they're not trying to, explore different things. But I was taught, ever since my early days in the comic book world, when I was in my teen years, to go out and try indie, go out and try different things. I mean, I went out and bought Fantagraphics books when I was 13 years old, and I tried indie characters back then, and I saw how great they were. And black people really need to start going outside of the box to try those other indie products as well, just like I did with indie comics, because there's a lot of great material out there, and I'd say there's a lot more better material out there because the creators aren't being hampered by a corporate agenda or a narrative that says that black characters have to be a certain way or have a certain voice. Instead, you're going to get to see different viewpoints and different opinions and, different takes on characters. And you're going to see, different stories being told. And the whole thing is that what a lot of people don't understand is that these creators need your help more so than anyone. A creator like myself, we're working on a shoestring budget, um, oftentimes out of our own bedrooms, like I'm doing right now, to get these publications out here. And we really need, the support. I mean, covers like these cost money, and printing books like these costs money, and editing costs money, and sitting in front of a computer for hours, that's a lot of labor. And a lot of people, don't appreciate the work that goes into putting together a book like this, or a book like this, or a book like this, year after year. And a lot of black creators, they take time out of their day. A lot of these guys, they have day jobs, and they take times out of their day to create work, because they really believe in black people. They believe in the black community. They want to put, the most positive images of black people out there, and they do that because they care. And what really frustrates people like my artist friend myself is just, being ignored all the time. And you're making every effort to listen to the people in your community, give them those positive images, give them those balanced images, and you're the one who runs into either being ignored or getting resistance from everyone. And it's really, it can really be disheartening and discouraging. But, you know, I find in the 7 years I've been working with SJS Direct that I have had to make a lot of efforts to shake off, all that negative energy and still continue to persevere, because all I do is I remember what God told me back in 2008 before I lost my job, to keep going. And that's what keeps me persevering to continue to, produce and publish books like these and books like you see behind me, because I believe that there is, a light at the end of the tunnel. I believe that African Americans will start, buying their own media from other black people, and they will start supporting media from other black people and start to realize that, the narratives that they're getting aren't really getting them anywhere. And it's time to listen to some other stories from some other writers and artists and start supporting their work, because if we don't support our work, no one else will. And we can't sit here and talk about how we want things to change if we don't make efforts to change our buying habits and our spending habits and start supporting, work like I produce here, and supporting creators like myself and creating and bringing those new images of African Americans to media in the mainstream, and making our media prominent. We sit there and complain about things like, oh, a lack of diversity at the Oscars, or they don't make our movies. But when people go out of their way in the black community to create things, they just literally get ignored. They literally get forgotten, and that's not really a good thing for for our community. We can't sit here and talk the talk and then not walk the walk. I mean, I've seen dozens of great black products out here, and they can't get any traction because black people won't support them. I mean, I've said this for many years. I get more responses from people in foreign countries for an ISIS series book, than I do in the black community. And I get more positive responses from white people for an ISIS series book than I do in the black community. And I've gotten more positive responses from white people for the Thetas and Spinsterella than I have from black people. And that's not the way it should be. I mean, we're the ones sitting here saying we need to support our own businesses. We're the ones saying we need group economics. Yet when black people like myself and my artist friend come out here and create media for black people, can't be found. And that's something that I believe, needs to change. I mean, black people really need to put up when it comes down to black media created by black people, or shut up. Because you can't say that you want positive images of black media and then go spend $200 million on Straight Out of Compton, or make Scandal and How to Get Away with Murder the highest rated shows on television. It's showing that people again are talking the talk, but when it's time to walk the walk, they just can't be found. And you just can't do that to African American creators, because the African American creators are the ones who want to present the most balanced and positive images of African Americans out here. Unfortunately, we are the ones who wind up getting ignored, most of the time. What I've learned over the last 7 8 years is that whenever you create media, you have to follow your heart and follow your passion. You really can't worry about sales too much, because you have to believe in what you're creating. Because I believe in every story that I create, and I believe that I'm putting the best, story forward, and I really care about what I'm doing, and I care about sharing it with those who want to share it with me. And I believe that if I can reach one person, I have made a difference with my work. You can find many of my SJS Direct titles, like Spinsterella, The Thetas, Isis Wrath of the Cyber Goddess, East Team Undercover, and Isis Night of the Vampires on Amazon.com in paperback, or you can find them in ebook on Amazon's Kindle and Smashwords. A lot of these stories are fast paced, easy reading, and I believe you'll enjoy them. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe.